Do you feel like it's increasingly hard to know what's going on? To determine between, noisy seagull, truth and fiction? What's authentic and what's a psyop? Who's the real deal and who's controlled opposition? In this video I'm going to explain what's going on here, and it's not an accident, it's a consequence of a deliberate tactic. And that tactic is called hyper-normalisation. So what is hyper-normalisation? So hyper-normalisation is a process by where the big club uses its actors to produce a mixture of information. Some of that information being true and some of it being untrue. The goal being to create confusion. Because of hyper-normalisation, we don't know what's real and what's not. So what's the goal? Why does the big club use hyper-normalisation? The first reason is easy to get, and it's just energy harvesting. They want us to puzzle over their conflicting messages, conflicting bits of information. We devote hours to it, thinking about what exactly is in those little glass vials. Is it nanotech? Is what that loony man says, them white calamari? Or is it about rewriting your biological instructions? The goal is that, within the truther community, we're going to spend hours and hours and hours of our time and energy trying to discern what's the truth and what's not. And they enjoy that. Get off on it. That's the energy harvesting. Some people won't be convinced of that because they'll think, well, I'm not into energy harvesting, so why would anybody else be? But it's like similar to cricket, you don't actually have to be into cricket to realise that there are other people who do like it. And it's the same with this energy harvesting. I don't know exactly the reason why, but it's safe to say that the big club members definitely get off on harvesting our energy. What they do with it, I don't know. They definitely do it. The second reason why they use hyper-normalisation is to create uncertainty, which in turn causes fear. Whilst we're in a state of fear, we're distracted and we're confused. It stops us from thinking straight. It disables us, if you like. Allows them to get on with pursuing their agenda. The third reason why they use hyper-normalisation is to discourage us, demotivate us from developing our own strategies to their agenda. Might come up with some scare story about an energy crisis. You don't know what the magnitude of that crisis is going to be. You don't know how long that crisis is going to go on for. And because of the uncertainty created by the hyper-normalisation, it's then sort of difficult for you to sort of do some investment planning yourself on developing countermeasures, because the countermeasures might not be needed, you see. Hyper-normalisation is being used to discourage you from planning your own life, because you don't really know what's coming next. Normally you would have cues coming out from maybe the mainstream media or maybe from the alternative media, but in both cases a lot of the time you're getting conflicting messages, so you don't know what to think, you don't know what to expect, you don't know what's authentic and what's not. How do we counter hyper-normalisation? I think the simple answer is just to acknowledge it in its first instance, and to realise that in the world that we live in, the future is increasingly unpredictable, and it's actually very hard to know for sure what the truth is and what's lies. And we just have to accept that. That's quite hard for us as human beings, because we like certainty. Certainty makes us feel better. The other thing is that we can do is to rely more heavily on what we can discern through our own five senses. So I don't know if you can see up there, there's what looks like a jet plane, and it's pumping out some white stuff. But if you look back further here, the trail disappears, doesn't it? You know, so what I can discern from this is that that's not one of those, you know, thing we can do is sort of learn to practice discernment. Obviously on the mainstream media, a lot of what they're telling you is going to be nonsense, you know. So for example, the other day when I did that Daily Mail review, you know, you had stories on one page about the Britney Spears causing cancer, and then 2 pages down you've got a contradictory story saying that the Britney Spears is going to stop you from developing cancer. So, you know, obviously when you're looking at mainstream sources, you know that not all of it is going to be true. Not all of it is going to be fake. There's going to be some truths thrown in as almost like bait to get you to start believing in the Daily Mail again, or BBC News, or whatever it is, or GB News. Maybe this is why GB News have still got Neil Oliver. It's part of a hyper-normalisation strategy. You know, you're supposed to sort of swallow some of the kind of nonsense that GB News pushes out, because at the same time they've still got Neil Oliver on there who's truth bombing people. So you've got a mixture of truth and fiction emanating from the same source, with the goal of trying to create hyper-normalisation and confuse and disorientate people. So if we're aware of that, we've got a better chance of being able to avoid this tactic. We've got a better chance of being able to negate this tactic, to minimise its effect on us. The alternative mainstream media, it's much harder. Earlier this week I was watching on YouTube, it was, I'm not going to even mention any of these people's names because it's just not necessary, but anyway, I had somebody moaning on a YouTube video about 2 other kind of supposed heroes of the truth movement who'd done an interview, and the person doing the interview had been saying some bad things about this person who did the video. You got 3 truthers, right? You don't know for sure whether it's one of the truthers that's legit, you know, whether it's 2 of them that's legit, or whether all 3 are legit. We just don't know. Do you remember I'm a child of the 70s, so I remember the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and on Saturday afternoons used to have like Big Daddy fighting giant haystacks. And it could be that it's like that all 3 of these people are controlled opposition and they're staging a fake fight. And the goal of it is try to convince us that, you know, maybe actor A and B are legit, but actor C isn't. Or some people might, you know, draw a completely different conclusion. They might say that A's legit, but B and C aren't. So again, the goal is confusion, hyper-normalisation. So what conclusions can we draw from all of this? Number 1 is that we shouldn't expect certainty. The second thing is that we should also learn to practice discernment. So from my perspective, what do I do to discern between people in the alternative mainstream who are legit and those who are controlled opposition? All right, so I'll just go through a very, very quick list of the things that I look for. Number 1 is professional sounding intro and outro music to the videos. In club, they can't resist throwing money at their controlled actors to make their videos look what they think is authentic. But you know, stuff like this, high budget stuff, just makes me suspicious straight away. Second thing I would say is lighting. So, you know, you might have somebody who's professes to be a taxi driver shooting a video from his garage, but you can tell there's professional lighting being used there. That makes me suspicious. Or, you know, Gary's Economics, drinking his cup of tea with like makeup on and like obvious studio lighting. Fantastic sound quality. What number we're up to now, but another one would be sort of grifting. So again, I'm very, very wary of people that ask for money, or even people that sort of set up you know, through sites like Patreon, or Hugo Talks was another classic one, where he was very keen to get you to subscribe to his website, even though it was free, you know. So what's going on there? Well, for me, there's a good chance that what's being constructed there is a roundup list of emails. So the big club will know who the opposition is, like who's opposing their agenda. And obviously on the issue of money, like if you've been given a subscription, I don't know, via Patreon or some of these other sites, they will know all about your bank details, won't they? Which is, you know, even if this person isn't legit, it's still very, very dangerous, because MI5, they will have access to all of that banking information, and at a later date in the future, they'll find it ridiculously easy to put you in a digital gulag. So I think I'm very, very skeptical of people who are grifting heavily, doing it for money, and they're ever so keen on having your email and having your bank details. Final one you could just call the sniff test. So I've just been finishing a book that was written, or it became popular in the 1970s, and it was about a bunch of animals. And basically, this bunch of animals managed to save themselves because one of the animals in the group had like a sixth sense, and was able to anticipate danger before it arrived. In the comments, you can actually tell me what the name of the book was, and the name of the character in the book that had this sixth sense. It was aware to danger before it arrived. But yeah, I think we've got to trust your instincts, I suppose. That's the last thing that I would say. Oh, and one more thing is that the only thing that you can actually trust is, you know, what's around us here. Who created this? Wasn't, you know, the globalists, the big club, want you to think that the tree, the sand, this human being in front of you was just an accident. Something went bang somewhere. We don't know what went bang. We don't know where it came from. We don't know why it went bang. And you know, I was a blob of slime, and then I was a kangaroo, and then I turned into a human being. You know, so trust God, I suppose. That's what I'm saying as well. So another nice day here, and I'm going to read a little bit of the most popular book in human history, the most read book in human history, and enjoy the sunshine. So God bless.